You're now entering the most secure location in the whole of England.
This is Arknights Endfield. Here in Endfield, we work to rebuild and improve the lives of the inhabitants after a devastating war by utilizing our wonder machines and working with our friends and allies to achieve our mission. Just don't mind the bomb factory I'm putting next to a refugee camp. That's a tool that will help us later. We are here on this rock called Talis 2 after coming through the Stargate on Terra, the setting of OG Arknights. That's the story, which from general reception along with my personal experience was pretty mid. But when you take a step back and look at what's around in the game, the deeper things that is glossed over in the story but has readables in some random corners of the UI, those stuffs, there are clear story potentials that might make the story go from kinda average to something more thought-provoking.
What? You can actually do that?
Because under our Guardian of Civilization facade, there exists questionable actions that points to the possibility of us maybe not being as good as we've been led to believe. So let's talk about it. As with many things Arknights, it's gotta do with originium. Introduced to us as this magic rock that powers literally everything in the game, from being the energy source to the catalyst for your average Joe to cast Mind Blast! And the best part is renewable. Though sometimes you risk catching the uncurable rock cancer that slowly breaks down your body into said rock. No big deal, at least not big enough to deter us from bringing it over to Talos 2. I would think it's around the refugee camp part where questions started to be raised cause it doesn't look that great that we brought an uncurable disease upon these people, and the admin certainly thought so when we met someone like Ginny, but don't worry about it cause Perlica said so. The background information you need to understand about oripathy was that it was a massive pain in the ass. For one, it's the root cause of pretty much every major unrest, crises, and wars in Arknights. If you get infected, well, tough luck, you are now discriminated and stripped of all your rights. Not to mention the rock itself also causes environmental issues like massive rock showers of death that force every city on Terra to be put on views to run away from these things lest their cities become a rock contaminated hellscape. This rock shower, aptly named catastrophes, does not happen on Talos 2, for now. I say that because one of our partners are working hard to recreate it to better spread originium. What could possibly go wrong? Endfield is set at least a century and a half since the Arknights day, so like treatment for oripathy for example has advanced significantly since then, where it's now more affordable to people, just that we may or may not be the one who has a monopoly over it in terms of production and distribution. So if this isn't creating the problem and setting the solution, I don't know what is. These are just some examples of the contradictions that I'll be mostly talking about in this video. Like for all the talks that we've been told about how much good we at Endfield are doing, but then you look under the hood and see these things that doesn't exactly put us into a good light. Do we have a good justification? Or maybe this may lead to conflicts between interest groups which lead us to the premier opposition to Endfield. The LBs as they are called, at least for the hostile ones that we have fought, doesn't offer much in terms of intellectual discussion considering they all act like Borderlands psychos.
Boom! Squish! Yay! Shoot me in the face! In the face!
They seem to be big on the ether stuff, which is like another kind of energy that has some interesting interaction with originium, where they kind of cancels out each other. In the story, they are positioned as the ones left behind, the ones who fell through the cracks, with their roots possibly hinted to be some disagreements with how pro-originium factions like Endfield are handling Talos 2. I've seen some people online claim these guys stands for the poor natives we are oppressing, but technically, they are as native as any other groups we see on Talos 2, cause believe it or not, these animals we see that isn't sapient are technically their distant ancestors, which would surprise you if you had exposure to the setting of Arknights. But I want to clear this up for those who didn't. Back in the days, these animals were brought over to Terra. Cancer Rock happened, which for some reason made them evolve into animal people, and it's only recently, about 150 years before the game start, did they find a way back to Talos 2 by using the aforementioned Stargate. So really, everyone's a native, with some few exceptions like the actual natives of Terra who came over with the rest, such as the Sarkas or Tkas, and I believe Faranmuts. But really, there isn't much point in making the distinction, as they all share a lot more in common as Terrans. So yes, the Terrans are colonizers, but not in the way of taking over land and oppressing another sapient race. Yet. So at the present, neither of these groups are gonna get us any meaningful discussion. So we need to dig even deeper to that cavern section in the story, which our characters regarded to be beautiful. It's implied to be spreading into the crust of Talos 2, which is like alarming for many reasons. It reminds me a lot of this figure called Priestess. You might have heard of that name, because the entire opening sequence of the game screamed that name. This infamous lady, the current antagonist of the Arknights story, wants to cover Terra in the rock. To understand her better, we need to know why originium came to be. Originium was jointly developed by Priestess and Doctor, the player character from Arknights. Its original purpose was to cover Terra in the rock and assimilate everything to be stored and frozen away in some metaphysical dimension. And the way it does this is oripathy. This will make a lot more sense if you read the files about reconveners in Endfield, cause they only exist because the original lifeform caught the cancer and presumably died from it. Originium was meant to store life and preserve them, which was the plan for Doc and Priestess to save themselves from this big threat that was ending their civilization. And as their civilization was technologically leagues ahead of the Terrans, they didn't really factor in these animals that somehow turned themselves into animal people. Some of them learned how to control Originium and are trying to reverse it, which would throw their plan out the window. So when they found out, they got taken care of. But a chain of events would lead Doctor to change his stance on this issue, but that's a story for another day. The point is, she seems to be very influential in who Endman is, maybe even related to the Endman. One may wonder how much of Enfield's decisions were influenced by this woman, so the worst may have yet to come. But of course, there may be missing context here, as the overall outlook in Endfield seems a lot more sunshines and rainbows. For one, oripathy treatment is much more widely available, even if it may be a monopoly, and social progress being made, like with Toaster Queen, who is the only 5 stars I didn't get from a single pool, so I had to get her off the damn store. Anyways, she's employed under the Angel People #1 faction, who didn't really like demon people like her, so you know, things must have improved quite a lot to get to this point. Now to the question of whether we are the bad guys in Arknights Endfield. Well, on the surface, there's no alternative to originium, not even fossil fuel, which may or may not have been eaten up by the rock. There seems to be efforts taken to prevent originium from causing death storms. That was a big problem back then, except for the part that they are recreating it. Other than that, Endfield looks alright for now. They are doing their best with what they have and with their circumstances. I just hope we can get more information on the state of things, but what do you think? Feel free to put any clues that I didn't touch on in this video down below, especially the parts from Arknights that I might not have the chance to read up on yet or I got wrong. Anyways, for the regulars of my channel and the new ones from the Arknights space, this is the first time I'm branching out to a different type of content, so whether I make more depends on the reception, so like and subscribe to let me know if there's demand. I must go now before the High Priest executes me for incompetence, and until we meet again.